are you guys doing? Brewing a beer today. Got the Clawhammer fired up. You saw me set it up and everything. Got the mash water in there. We're letting it get up to strike temp. Dialed in at 128. We're going to do a 2-stage infusion mash on this. And I'll tell you what the beer is here in a second, but we're going to do a 122 for half an hour on the mash, and then we're going to do a 152 on the actual hour-long mash. And this beer actually calls for a decoction, but apparently, according to my Clone Brews Book, we can do it with a 2-stage infusion. So, anyways, we're doing a Clone Brews brew here, Samuel Adams Boston Lager Clone, and so we'll see how this beer turns out, because I did do a brown ale clone, a Newcastle brown ale clone out of this book, and it was so-so. I don't know, maybe I just had some temp. Like, at that time that I brewed that clone beer, my temp controls were a little wacky, and so there might have been some parts on my end that contributed to maybe it not tasting quite exactly like a Newcastle brown ale clone. But then again, Newcastle is actually made from 2 beers. This one was just trying to mimic it with one type of beer, brown ale recipe. So anyways, we're going to do the Samuel Adams Boston Lager Clone. We're using some Tettnanger for the bittering, and then we're going to use some German Hallertau towards the end for a little bit of aroma and flavor, along with some additional Tettnanger. So anyways, the yeast that they suggest we use is this Y yeast 2206 Bavarian lager yeast. So, and the second choice that they recommended was a Bohemian lager yeast. The Bavarian lager yeast is Y yeast 2206 lager yeast, and the Bohemian lager yeast is the Y yeast 2124 Bohemian lager yeast. So while we let this bad boy get the temp, we'll just chill. But yeah, she's heating up, and I just decided to do something clone brewy. Instead of just buying a kit. I usually like to buy these kits from Texas Brewing and brew them. They're these all grain kits, and they always make great beers. But I wanted to do something out of this one little book I've got here that I've had for a long time. And there's like so many different types of beers in here. Stouts, ales, pilsners, traditional lagers. Yeah, so that's what we're doing today. So we'll get back here shortly when we mash in the grains. I forgot to mention something, guys. I talked about the hops. We're actually also using, according to them, 9.33 pounds of American 2-row malt, and the specialty grains that we're using is 8 ounces of 60 Lovibond crystal malt, and that's it. So there you have it. There's your grain bill. Alright guys, we're a few minutes into the mash right now, but I just wanted to show you the Midland Maibach recipe that I brewed. Nice clear beer, man. It's been sitting in the keg for a little bit. Cheers. Such a good, smooth beer. We got a little snow shower action here. I don't know if you can see it. This is just a small taster glass. I didn't really start drinking full-on beers this early in the day because it's morning time. It's not even, it's like 11 now, so we're getting close, but I've had a lot of these, honestly, of this beer. It's such a good beer. It's crisp, clean. It's definitely got that good lager flavor and crispness of a lager. It's a clean beer, and it's been kegged for 3 months or so, I guess. But cheers. Yeah, when I first tapped the keg with it, it still had a little bit of those off buttery flavors in it. But as time has gone by, this beer has cleaned up nicely, and it's so good. And I would definitely brew this one again. And like Sam Adams Boston Lager is one of my favorite beers. It's one of my favorite Pilsners. So if this turns out well, I will definitely brew this many times, just because I'm a big fan of that beer. And if I can brew my own version of Samuel Adams Boston Lager here at the house, that's the way to go, because it's not a very expensive beer to brew at all. Maybe 30 bucks on the top end, price wise. The hops, most of the time people don't understand, hops are actually one of the more expensive components of a beer. Hops cost a lot of money, and the yeast and hops, those make up most of the expense of making a beer. The grain is actually fairly cheap. Grain is not expensive at all. But yeah, we got, let's see, let me look at the countdown here. 20 more minutes on this initial phase 1 of the mash first infusion, and then we're going to ramp it up to 152, and that'll be our second infusion. That'll go for 60 minutes. So this is going to be a longer brew session than I typically do. 90-minute mash, and then I'm doing a 90-minute boil, so that's an additional hour on a brew day that I typically don't have. So cheers. We'll get back here when we ramp up the temp. Alright guys, let's ramp it up to 152. Stage 2 of the mash. Alright. We're at 152 on the set value. This thing ramps up really fast on a 240 volt, so not really worried there. So here we go. I can actually hear it ramping up right now. So let's set our timer for an hour. Alright. See you guys in an hour. I was a little premature there on setting my 1 hour timer. I waited till the mash was up to 152 officially, and then I restarted the timer for an hour. So just to clarify that for any of the naysayers out there. Alright guys, mash is over. Time to get this time to get the grain basket out and let it drain, and then we will start working on that boil. So let's get that going. I've gotten pretty used to using the Clawhammer system, so now I know exactly how. For those of you that may be using the Clawhammer system, I always like kill the flow from the kettle first. I take the top sprayer hose off and I drain it immediately by taking it down to the floor level, of course, and letting it drain out. The pump would drip a little bit. Yep, little drippage there. I just take the hose, because we got some work in the hose here, so I'm just going to take it and drain it into the cup. Emptying out that hose. And I just take the hose and set it aside because we aren't going to need it for a little while. Now work on the next hose. Disconnect it from the pump. It does drain out the front here too, so I forgot about that. So I made a little mess there. Oh well. I'm going to steam these floors after I'm done brewing today. Just disconnect. Alright. I can set my hoses aside. Go ahead and take the lid off the kettle here. Shake off the condensation. Just find a place to set this. And winch this sucker up. Alright, let that drain. Go ahead and put my J-clips in place. I only need 2 of them. I like to angle the basket so I can scrape the grains and get the moisture out of them more. So I'm going to put them kind of like on the back side here. And I'm going to lower this thing. Hear the sweet, sweet trickle of wort coming out of the grains. I just like to kind of rake my grains, free up any of that extra moisture that might be in there. I've never had problems, like I've said in other videos. This has never caused any issues for me flavor profile wise, so I'm not really anticipating it causing problems this time either. So just gonna rake through it, let it continue to drain for the next 5 or 10 minutes. Then I will take and compost these spent grains. Like I said before, you can make dog biscuits with this. You can make bread with the grain. You just have to let it dry out a little bit and then grind it up even more. I would grind it up even more to more of a flour consistency. But for dog biscuits, you don't have to grind it up. You can basically just use it as is. Just mix it in with some other ingredients. Alright, that's pretty good. We're gonna let this sit for a little bit and then we will continue the next step. Alright guys, so while this is draining out all this excess moisture in the grain, I'm letting it kind of drain to a very slow trickle. Once the trickling's kind of settled out, then we'll take it and dump it, like I said earlier. I did go ahead and ramp the controller to 200 degrees because I want to go ahead and get this really close to boiling. And I don't want it to go too boiling while these are sitting on here because this thing ramps up boiling really quick. So what I wanted to do is just get it close to boiling and then get this basket out once it's done trickling out, and then I will just go ahead and go full force, you know, 100% on the boil, and then once I get to boil, then I will ramp it down to like 50 or 60% on the control, like as far as the power to the element, because this thing will boil off 2 gallons an hour easy on a 5-gallon batch. So I dial it down to like a pulsing boil, and it works perfect. So we'll get back here shortly when we get ready to boil. Alright guys, got the exhaust fan on. I forgot to turn that on. It turned into a real steamy mess in here for a minute. My camera lens got all steamed up and everything. So yeah, let's get a pre-boil gravity. Clone Brews says it's supposed to get like a gravity of around 1050, 1051. We'll see if that happens. The wort didn't taste super sweet, so we'll see where we actually got on the wheat, the We'll see what we got on the wort on this. All right, let's see. Okay, we're about 10:30. Now, this is a 90-minute boil. And it looks like we're right about a little over 7 gallons on the pre-boil here. So 10:30 on a pre-boil. We might end up in the mid 1040s, maybe high 1040s, I don't know. We'll see after this boils off how much sugar concentrate is left, but you know, I'll still take it. It's going to be a lighter beer. It was meant to be a lighter beer to begin with. Got a lot of protein in this one this time. A lot of protein built up on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and ramp this up to boil right quick, and then we'll add the hops here in a moment, and that'll boil for 90 minutes on those hops. And then right about the 15-minute mark, we'll throw in the flavor aroma hops and our Werflock tablet to help kind of clarify that beer. So go ahead and punch this thing up to 60% on the about 55. Let's do 55%. Now we're in manual boil control mode here, so I've got it dialed at 55% power, so that'll get us a nice little pulsating boil. Once I've verified that that's kind of happening, then we'll throw the hops in. All right, I'm gonna give this a little stir. Got a lot of protein on top here. I could skim it off, but I'm just gonna leave it in. It ain't gonna hurt anything. It'll settle at the bottom, you know, of the fermenter, especially with that Werflock tablet. It'll definitely settle at the bottom. So I'm just gonna give this a good stir, and I think we're pretty much hitting that pulsating boil. So I'm gonna go ahead and toss the hops in here in a second. Got to add in the hop spider first, though. Let's go ahead and toss in the hop spider. Two ounces of Tettnang. Into the boil here. It's a 90-minute boil. Oh man, those smell incredibly good. Nice and fresh. Yeah, these are definitely nice fresh hops. Sometimes, you know, when you get those older pellet hops, they just, the smell and everything just ain't as potent. These seem to be pretty fresh. Man, they smell good. All right, let's go for 90 minutes on these. Actually, be an hour and 15 minutes, and then we will add in our Hallertau. Alright guys, we got 15 minutes left of the boil, so let's go ahead and add in a ½ ounce of Hallertau and Werflock tablet. Werflock tablet will help clear up the beer, reduce any chill haze or anything when it's in a glass. Something that would actually happen anyways over time just with lagering. So now we got 13 more minutes, and then I'm going to add in a ½ ounce of Tettnang, and then we're done after that 2 minutes of Tettnang addition. Alright guys, on timer, do my last ½ ounce of Tettnang here. 2 minutes and we'll kill the boil. Timer's done. I'm going to kill the heat on the brewery here. I'm going to get this beer chilled down and in the fermenter, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about it afterwards. Oh yeah, the magic of the Werflock tablet. Look at all those proteins. Steaming it up a little bit here. Okay, you can see the proteins like kind of separating out and everything. That's what Werflock tablets do. Pretty crazy. Alright, so I'm going to get this cooled down right quick. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, brew day is done. I got exactly 5 gallons of finished or worked in the fermenter. Exactly 5. Usually I get like 5.5 to 6. I didn't use Beersmith this time to do this calculation. I actually used an application called brewinabag.com, or it's called Brewinabag Calculator.com. Yeah, BIAB calculator.com. I'll put the link in the description down below for you guys, but you can put in your grain bill size, the temperature of the grain, batch size, and I put 5 gallons for batch size, so man, it was right on the money as far as like finished batch size. So what I might do next time, I'll put 5.5 in here. I didn't renew my Beersmith subscription this round, because most of the time the only thing I ever use Beersmith for is to factor out how much water I need to use based on grain absorption and everything, and then like just the schedules. And I use I'm just back to the old school, just set a timer, you know. I do have the sample here, the finished product, pre-fermentation of course. Let me check the gravity on it right quick. According to my bricks, we got about close to 11 bricks, so we're looking at about a 1044 gravity. Or yeah, 1044 on the gravity. The Clone Brews book says I should get 1050, 1051, so I'm off a few points. I'll still take it. Brewing a bag is not as efficient as like using like a 3-vessel kind of setup. Although I have hit my numbers a few times with the brewing a bag setup here. This particular beer was only like 9.8 pounds of grain, so it was a real light grain bill. It wasn't a real heavy beer. It was supposed to be a light beer anyways. I'm thinking it's going to be around the 4 to close to 5% in that range on the ABV. We'll see what the final gravity comes out to, but I'll take it. I think the Clone Brews book, because I remember when I did the brown ale, I always felt like it was a little more ambitious on the gravities that you would get from like their recipes. So I figured it was going to be under the 1050, more in the like mid 1040s, but you know, I'll take it. So I got it already hanging out in the stasis chiller, and got it dialed down about 68, or wait a minute, I got it dialed down to about 64 degrees or so, and I'll let it ferment for the first day around there. And then what I'll do is, because this is a lager and it's a lager yeast, I will start kicking it down to about the 55 area, maybe 55 degrees, and let it ferment around 55 for a couple of weeks. And then after that's done, I'll do a diacetyl rest, kick it back up to around 60, 61, and let it sit there for about 3 days. And then after that, I'll dial it, start cranking it down 5 degrees every day until we hit like 37 degrees or so. And that's where it will sit for about a month, while it cleans up. So, but yeah, this is the Y yeast. I smacked the pack earlier today. It's already, I can feel it swelling up. I'm gonna let it get real swollen up before I pitch it, because I really want as many yeast cells as I can get out of this pack. I mean, I could pitch it right now, but I want the yeast cells to kind of reproduce and grow and get more in here. So I'm gonna wait to pitch this. And there's been times where I haven't pitched yeast till the next day or a couple of days later, and beers have always turned out fine. Is it a good habit to get into? No, it's not. But I'm a pretty sanitary person, so I keep everything really sanitized. So I have no problem waiting a day or two before pitching the yeast. And you can too, as long as you keep everything super sanitary. But from the time the wort is chilled down and going into the fermenter, everything that chilled wort touches has been sanitized really well. So, anyways, guys, thank you for joining me on this brew day. And shoot, this beer will be ready late July, early August time frame, and we'll see how it turns out. I might sneak one early, I don't know, we'll see. But the Maibach, it's just now coming around to what it should be, and it's fantastic. So cheers, and we'll see you guys later. Alright guys, the beer has been fermenting for quite some time, almost a couple months. I actually have it in the lagering stage and I did dry hop it. What I'm going to actually do is move it out of the fermenter, put it in a sanitized keg, and we're going to go ahead and put it under pressure, some CO2 and everything, just kind of let it continue lagering in the kegerator. I'll go ahead and show you how I disconnect it from the stasis and everything while I'm at it. So yeah, let's look at this. I usually like this. This is usually really, like, it's really ice cold right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna unscrew the line here. And I have a little collector cup here because I always have a little glycol solution kind of come out when I drop it down, which is fine. Just do the other side too. Just like that, and as soon as I drop it down, I get a little glycol come out. Actually not too much that time. So now, I need to put this up on the table and run my sanitized tubing and everything to get this into the keg. Go ahead and get this on the table. Alright, I'm gonna get it to the edge here so I can put my tubing up. Alright, first thing first, I'm gonna get my bouncer filter here. Put it together real quick. I've had this thing for a long time. I haven't used it very often, but it's pretty handy when I need it. Nice, clean, sanitized keg. Some sanitized tubing here. And there's a flow direction on this filter. And it's pointing that way, so I want to put this on, just like so. Get my other tube here, put it down inside the keg, and hook the other end of the filter up to this hose. Usually a pretty snug fit. Just gonna hook it up. Like so. Then I'm gonna take my airlocks out, or at least one of them, so I can get some airflow in there. And let it rip. You can see that filter. Got a good bit of yeast in the line there, just being picked up. Must be a pretty good yeast cake down in here, but it's filling up and it's running through the filter, so you'll see some bubbles in there and a little bit of carbonation in the beer just from it fermenting, because it does create CO2 when it is fermenting. So let it rip. Hi guys, what I usually like to do while the keg is filling up is prep my racetrack lid. They call it a racetrack lid because it's shaped like a racetrack. And this little O-ring here, you really need to put a food grade lubricant on it to kind of help with a better seal on the keg. So that's what I'm doing now. I got a little bit of this keg lube stuff here, specifically made for doing exactly what I'm doing. I've used quite a bit of it, so there's some still in here, but just a little bit on your finger, you know. Make sure your hands are clean, of course. You know, I just kind of, between my thumb and my index finger, I just kind of go around this whole piece, and just enough to coat, make it kind of slippery. It's kind of sticky, really, this stuff is, but it works really well. Gives a good seal. And my lid's already been sanitized, so I had dipped in some sanitizer already for a bit. So I'm just gonna slip the ring right on there, like so. And then usually what I do is I dip it one more time in some sanitizer, and then I put it on top of the keg once it's ready. Alright, my keg is full. I actually disconnected the bottle filter. I disconnected the filter because it was super full. I guess I need to get the mega big version of it at this point in my brewing days. But let me show you guys what this fermenter looks like here in a second. Let's go ahead and put the cap on this keg. I'm just going to pull the tubing out slowly. And I can just set it aside. Alright. Got my sanitized lid. Go ahead and put it on. Usually I like to kind of pull back while I push. And I kind of like to seat it a little bit. And then it's kegged. I have a keg of beer. Now the only other thing is I gotta put some pressure on it so no oxygen gets in there. I gotta purge the oxygen out that might have gotten in there and then let it sit for a little bit. Go ahead and open up the kegerator. That's what she looks like on the inside. If you saw my build, go ahead and I'm not gonna hook the beverage line up because I still need to clean the beverage line. Actually, my beverage line got a little frozen to the bottom there. Set it aside for now. I'm trying to clear the space for the keg to sit in. I'll show you the bottom of the keezer. Clearing out the bottom so I can place my keg in there. Let's see if you can see. But yeah, it's going to go right there where that little round spot is. That's where it sits. So, let's go ahead and get it in there. I need to go with shorter shanks on this keg. Somebody had said that a long time ago when I first built this kegerator, that I should have used shorter shanks. I agree with them, but you know what? It works. It gets me by. So let's go ahead and get that keg in here, or attempt to anyways. I'm gonna move my gas line out of the way here. And all beverage line clear. Move it over for a moment. This is where the muscles come in. Let's see if I can weasel it down in there. Alright, she's in. Now I gotta see which side's my gas. Okay, it says in. That's where my gas line goes. Okay, let's go ahead and hook up the gas line. Turn it on. I'm using these nice little fancy metal quick connects. Way better. They don't leak like the plastic ones do, and they're just very durable. So I've been real happy with them. Just gonna put it on the gas inside here. Alright, you just hear the hiss of the gas going. Now what I'm gonna do is turn off the gas to my other kegs for the time being. And I'm gonna pressurize the keg to about 30 psi. I'm almost out of CO2. I need to get another bottle. Alright, and then what we do here is there's a little pull pin here. I just like to burp it. This is purging the oxygen out. I usually do this about 10 times. There you go. 10 to 15 times. That's it. And I just leave the gas off on the other kegs because they're plenty carbonated and pressurized. And I leave this new keg at 30 psi, and then the next day I'll dial it down to 20 and leave it at 20 for a couple of days, and then I'll check the carbonation level by pulling a small sample, and then if I think it needs more, then I'll keep it at 20 psi for a couple more days or so. But yeah, there it is. She's all kegged, and now we gotta let her condition for another week or two. Continue lagering. So that concludes the Boston Lager brew, and I actually showed you the kegging, you know, all the different little things that I do to get the beer into the keg so it's ready to drink for friends, myself, or if I bottle it and send it to folks, which I'll be sending it to Cooking Cop and Babe here soon, because I did promise them that I would send them this beer, and I might send a couple others too that I have on tap. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video, and give a like, thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and we'll see what happens next, right? Cheers.